And begin.
Hi, this is my granddad, Jeff Secord. What do you do for a living?
I manage money for people that invest in the stock market, the bond market, and real estate, and I help them retire and have money when they need to spend it.
How long have you been able to trade stocks and bonds?
I have been in this business 40 years, which is a long time, but it's a business I love, and I'm excited about this project.
Explain briefly what selling and buying stocks is.
Well, let's first understand what a stock is. So you take a company like Walmart, and Walmart needs money to build their stores and build new stores. So when they first started, they had one store. And then they decided to build more stores. So they went out and borrowed money. They built those stores, and then they sold stock to people so that they could even have more money. So once they get the initial money to build the initial Walmart and all the stores that grow, then those shares of stock are traded back and forth by investors. So the stock market is a huge trading floor of company securities like Walmart.
What happened with the market in 1929 to make the market crash?
Well, basically the problem with the market in 1929 started with investors having too much debt. So I'll give you an example. And Walmart didn't exist in 1929, but I'll use that as an example today, which we'll get around to in a minute. If you bought 500 shares of Walmart at $20 a share, that would cost you $10,000. And a year later, if Walmart stock went from $20 a share to $22 a share, that'd be a 10% increase. So then you could sell your 500 shares at $22, and you would make $2,000, which is a 10% increase. Okay? Now, you could also buy 500 shares of Walmart at $20, but you could borrow $5,000 from your stockbroker. So then you only have to put up $5,000 to control 20,000 shares of stock. So if the price of the stock goes up $2, you still make $2,000, but you only had $5,000 invested. So voila, your return's 20% instead of 10%. So you made twice as much money because you used other people's money, we call that OPM, other people's money, to help you make money. So in 1929, though, the rules that govern the stock market allowed people to borrow a lot more money. They could borrow 90% of their stock price. So in that case, you'd only have to put up $1,000, or $2,000, excuse me, to control $20,000 worth of stock. So it's all well and good if the stock market goes up, but when it goes down, then the banks get scared. The banks that loan you the money are scared, and they want their money back. So all of a sudden, you have to sell your Walmart to pay the bank back, and the market goes down and down and down. So the lack of ability to control that caused a depression, and the depression caused people to get out of work, and it started with too much borrowing.
Are there guidelines to ensure that this will never happen again?
Well, we hope so. However, people cheat sometimes. So right now, the most you can borrow on stock is 50%. The problem we got into a few years ago, though, was more real estate based. So people started borrowing money on real estate. So somebody builds a house, they want to sell the house, the realtor who builds it, so the person who buys it borrows money, and all of a sudden that debt, that loan on the house can actually be sold. So when a house is worth a lot, and somebody borrows, let's say, on a $100,000 house, they borrow $80,000, you have to put $20,000 down if you're the person who buys the house. Well, that's a pretty standard type of an agreement. But what happened a few years ago is they started trading the actual securities that the banks would loan, and they would trade them from one another, and the market became huge because people made a lot of money with the interest rates on the debt, and they started borrowing more and more, and the house quality became worse and worse. So all of a sudden, people were borrowing huge amounts of money on houses that really weren't any good anymore. The people who were borrowing the money didn't have good credit, and so what happened when they couldn't pay their loans back, the first person that defaults starts a process, and then the next person that defaults starts a default is when you can't pay your loan back, and then the house has to be sold. So houses were sold and sold and sold. So the housing market didn't really have good quality controls. The stock market now has better quality controls because you can only borrow 50%. But we didn't think this could happen again, and it did in 2008. So it caused another terrible economic spiral.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.